Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and fasten your seatbelts because today we're going to talk about a very good topic. We're going to talk about sabotage, self-sabotage. And boy, do I know this one really, really well. So, as always, we start with a quote, and I'll start with it. Each of us has an inner thermostat setting that determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. When we exceed our inner thermostat setting, we will often do something to sabotage ourselves, causing us to drop back into the old familiar zone where we feel secure. And that's by Hendricks. And that just blows my mind because why in God's name would we?
Right.
When we are experiencing love and success and creativity and we're in a joyful place, why would we want to forego that or give that up or sabotage that, because that's what we're talking about, to go back to something that is old and familiar, which that does interest me a little bit and confuse me at the same time, because when we're kids, when we're little and we come into the world and we're when we're toddlers and babies, we're in this pure state,
right,
of love and joy. That's what we know. That's what we know. So that should be what is familiar.
Well, okay.
Right?
I'm going to challenge that one. So I recently saw a documentary. I think it was called In Utero.
Okay.
You can probably Google it and find it. I think they have access to it every now and then. I don't know how it works, but for whatever reason, I was able to access it. And it talks about how our experience in utero actually really affects our life moving forward, because there can be a lot of stress in utero. There can be a lot of challenges. So it's not always as blissful as we like to think it was.
Yeah.
Because if our mother is feeling stressed, we feel stressed in utero.
So then if that is the case, then even once we're born as infants and toddlers, are we still in that state then, or
we can
they're still
be.
saying we can be?
We can be. They're actually seeing more research and showing that we can have a more sensitive nervous system. So they're looking, the film is basically, so Gabor Mate was in it, which is how they put it up, along with many other people, but how that start to, getting that cortisol hit, all those stress hormones in utero can influence how we develop in our own nervous system and the potential trauma. So they're talking trauma and how it shows up in our life, so we've thought about trauma with infants more so, but it actually can go back even further than that. And then when you think about it, it goes back even further, because if your grandmothers, went through the Depression and had food shortages, that has been shown epigenetic wise, it shows up in their grandchildren. So it's even more complicated.
It really does sound like it is. So that inner thermostat, as the quote says, as Gay Hendricks calls it, the inner thermostat, even from infancy, can be at a set point of what? Of like
stress.
Well,
think of children who are born to mothers who are drug addicted. They don't have that peaceful love state the minute they're born.
So, and it's hard to know because infants and toddlers can't really communicate exactly what's going on. So what about when you see babies and you see these infants that are just, well, number one, totally in the moment, right?
Right.
They're just in the moment.
Yep.
So that's a higher state right there. And then for the most part, it seems like unless they are hungry, unless they're tired or need a diaper change or something like that, for the most part, don't they appear to be in a state of joy? Like I'm trying to think back
Yeah.
to my own kids when they were that age.
Right.
And then there's all these wisdom teachers, including Marissa Peer, because she totally teaches us that when we are working with clients, that you say back to, your natural normal state of you came into this world pure and whole and everything. So is all that then debunked? I mean,
I don't
right?
know. I don't know. I mean, I'll just think like for my daughters, so, twin birth,
Yeah.
induced 34 weeks, so 6 weeks early, induced because one was not growing anymore in that last week. So that's stress, right?
Yeah.
Because she literally didn't gain an ounce in a week where her sister gained 10 ounces.
Mm.
And so it was induced in a delivery room because they didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't do it in the little home birthing, or not the birthing suite, right? So they put me in the OR just in case.
Yep.
Had my set of doctors, each of my daughters had their own set of doctors and nurses and everything. So it was packed.
Mm.
Born, whisked away to the doctors and the nurses, poked and prodded and made sure, and blah, blah, blah. They didn't have the peaceful, here's your baby. I didn't even hold either one of them after they were born. They
Me
were
either.
taken to the NICU, didn't hold them for 24 hours. They
Yep.
brought one down to my room, and then the other one was still in the isolette. So I didn't even see her for 24 hours at all.
Yep.
So how is that a blissful way to come into the world?
That's
They're in
true.
a bright, lit room. I know NICUs are different now, with tons of noise, tons of sounds, lots of stressed out people and stressed out babies and parents who are coming to visit, It's just, I'm looking back at that as a different experience. So is it blissful for every baby? We, like you said, they can't talk. We don't know. We can only make perceptions. So for some, is their nervous system at a heightened state and more sympathetic than as parasympathetic? But that's what we see, and that's all we know because that's all they've experienced.
Okay, so then let's just say, for argument's sake, that does have an impact. How does that, affecting their nervous system, how does that then correlate or relate to this inner thermostat later in life, or this inner saboteur? Like how, let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, that was my experience as a baby being born. Like it was stressful. Clearly I do know that my mom, when she was pregnant with me, was very stressed because, as I shared many times before, she was raising my cousins, her sister who died in a fire. And then, she was raising her sister's children. So at the time that I was born, they were 9, 10, and 11. And it was just very stressful for my mother. There was a lot of stress. So let's just say that, and then the actual delivery was stressful as well. How does that, if that affected my nervous system, plus generational stuff, is what you're saying, from my grandparents and so on. So let's say I have all that going on. How does that correlate to my inner saboteur that says over and over again, and I shared the example with you, that in the evenings, as I write in my journal or write down on my list, that I'm going to do some yoga, I'm going to stretch, I'm going to journal, I'm going to read some books, I'm not going to sit in front of the TV for 2 or 3 hours every night. And each night comes along Every night comes along, and guess where I am? I'm in front of the freaking TV. So how does that stress
Too fun.
from when I was a little baby correlate to me not doing what I know is good for me? Or for anyone out there who says, I'm going to start an exercise program, I'm going to start to eat healthier,
Yeah.
I'm going to start this project, I'm going to organize my house, I'm going to declutter, whatever we're saying or you're saying, how does that correlate?
Yeah.
That we don't do it to that stress as a baby.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have no idea if it's related. I'm just sharing.
Please tell me it is.
More information, and I think I don't know if we ever can just pinpoint one thing either. I think we want to, like, our brains want to put everything in a box and make it all make sense.
Yeah.
And the reality is some kid could have a very stressful birth experience and be just fine. I mean, we're all individuals, and how we integrate that and move forward, we don't know. It's not like you can ask an infant, right?
I know.
And then whatever the mom has experienced too, are they transferring their own stress on them? I mean, it gets so muddy and complicated. And obviously I'm not an expert in this area. I'm just learning.
Yeah.
So I can't really answer that fully, but I feel like when you're talking about the now for the saboteur in the now, I think there's often different flavors and layers of like, well, why am I not? Have I not been taking care of myself a little more consistently over the last several days throughout the day, instead of trying to think you can jam pack everything all in at night? And then it's a check, right? Like, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Oh, I didn't do X. Oh, I failed there. And I say fail in quotes, right? You don't really. Right. And then, oh, I didn't do that. So, well, why even bother trying the other ones? Because I already screwed up. So might as well just enjoy another episode. And so we're really smart at rationalizing things, because we can make it fit however we want. And it's easier to make it fit for the easier thing to do, even if it's not what our higher self knows here we go again, quote, should do. Yeah. So what about, rather than thinking you have to do all those things at night, what about like, what do I need right now? We talk about that. Like, what do I need right now? Well, maybe I do need to veg out. Maybe that's what I need, to just veg out and watch some TV. Or, you know what, maybe what I would like to do is actually go stretch. And then I'm going to see if I want to do anything else. Because I think so many times we have this big, huge vision, and then it becomes overwhelming. Yeah. Or we miss one step, and now it's like throw in the towel. So what you're saying, my comfort zone of snuggling with a blanket.
Yeah. And what you're speaking to is a little bit, I think, this all or nothing kind of thinking, which is the perfection mask. And that's what we said earlier, is that, one of the ways that when we're self-sabotaging, one of the things that shows up is when that perfection mask is ignited. And so that is it. If I, especially with working out, with exercise or eating healthy, let's just take exercise, for example.
Okay.
Especially the beginning of the new year in January. How many people start out with the intention that I'm going to exercise, and they go, full force ahead. And then after maybe a week or 2 weeks, I mean, I used to even see sometimes at the gym I used to go to, like a couple of days, after a couple of days of working out, people stop coming. Right. Totally. So it's that all or not. If I don't do it perfectly or do it all, then why do it at all? Right. So there's that piece. The other thing that came to my mind when you were talking is that, so you were saying, well, to check in and see what you need, do I need to veg out? Do I not? And I'm thinking, well, I don't need to, because I'm doing it night after night, which is a habit. So, and it's the same thing with eating unhealthy, or I'm trying to think of other unhealthy things that are familiar, but that's how a habit is formed, right? Is that you just do the thing that is more familiar, even though it's not for our highest good, and you do it over, you create a habit out of it. Now it becomes more difficult to break the habit. Right. And so then that keeps playing into the self-sabotage. Right. And then you want to mention how we were talking about the fear of rejection piece, how that plays in.
Yep. Yeah. Because then it's the, outside of like the exercise, putting yourself out there for work or going to try to meet new people that you connect with. There's often the underlying fear of rejection or fear of judgment. And so then rather than be rejected or judged, we don't do anything at all. But the reality is we're always going to get rejected at some point. We're always going to get judged at some point. That's just the human experience. So learning to tolerate that and know, no, it's still worth it. Because if I meet that one friend that I didn't even know existed, and I got rejected by 4 in the process, that's okay. Because now I found someone who I connect with and is part of, we're in alignment, we can have good conversation, whatever it is. Or, putting out our course, right? It's like, okay, so 100 people see it and 10 people sign up or 1 person signs up. It's not about who doesn't sign up. It's about who does, who is showing up for themselves. And so I think, there's so many different layers of why we self-sabotage. So it's not like we can just put everything into a box, and we each have our own experiences and our own stories and our own background, which influences that. And so like moving forward, like you were saying, the habit, so we have to create a new habit. It takes at least 30 days to create a new habit, and 90 days is better. So I think it's whether or not we want to commit to ourselves, and then adding to that, like, don't think we can do it all at once. Let's just do a little piece, to help calm our brain, help calm our nervous system, our body, mind, and spirit, so we can embody that next step. Because if we try to do too much, we're human. We can't do it all.
We can't do it all. Exactly.
Even though culture says us we can do it all. Right.
But we need to be mindful of that. So I'll share mine, and if you want to share, what is one way right now currently that your self-saboteur is showing up?
Well, you're going to share yours. So you share yours. It's already in your brain. I'm going to.
Okay. So I'll share mine first and then you can share. So how I've been doing the Wild Fit program, and so it's been since July, and I've been really strong with it. And that's where it's crazy with the quote, right? Because I've had success with it. I'm feeling good with it. I've lost weight. I'm eating differently. I've had the food freedom that I wanted. And then I've been now in Florida for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden I'm like noticing, okay, I've had more tea because I wasn't having any caffeine. So I've had tea with the sugar sweetener in it. I had some of Angela's leftover Chipotle, like all these little things that were a no for me, that is just like has been slowly creeping in. So I feel the energy of that habit growing.
The one you don't want.
The one that I don't want. Okay. That energy of where I would just sabotage and eat the things that I know are not good for me. And while I haven't slid all the way back to where I was, I'm not eating cookies, ice cream, candy, and stuff like that. But these little permissions that I've allowed myself, I feel the energy of it growing and becoming more of a habit. So it's clearly the self-saboteur that is coming in. And that's why I started to be curious about why. Like, I know what's good for me. My body feels so much better when I'm putting healthy food in, when I'm eating only when I'm hungry. So it was like, why am I doing this? And then I guess it's this whole inner thermostat setting, like the quote says, that causes us to drop back into the old familiar zone of where we feel secure.
It's amazing how the pull is so strong for that too.
It's so strong. And that's why I was like, I'm so freaking curious about this topic.
And it's not just strong, it's how simple and easy it is to just slip back in, like no time has passed.
So easy. It's like I've been drinking tea, like I drank tea every day before, and now that doesn't maybe sound like to, the average person, like that's a bad thing, but I do get headaches from the caffeine, and I don't want caffeine every single day. And I put, although it's one of the better sugar substitutes, I use xylitol or xylosweet. It still is an additive. And my body was super clean, not perfectly clean, but clean. So, and I was feeling, and two things that I wanted food freedom, and I wanted my body to be healthier and feel better. And I had both of those things, and it just is so quick, like you said. So what about you? What's your current one for right now?
Trying to think of like a current one. I haven't had it.
Or in past, doesn't have to be
Yeah,
current.
I mean, like it shows up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not by any means like not having it, but I think I have a decent handle on a lot of things. But I'd say one that does show up often is work related. It's the, I mean, we're working on putting together a course, which I know it's going to be amazing and we're going to do it. But like prior to that, like the first time I really put myself out there on, and I'm not a big social media person, but like I think the first time I ever did like shared a video, oh my goodness, I can't tell you, I was like hypercritical, hated everything of, So I never would post, because I was afraid people were going to judge me, or it wasn't under my perfectionist mask. And then one day something flipped. I'm like, just do it. And it was so amazingly liberating. Now, do I still fall into, like, if it's a pre-recorded, not a live, be like, oh, well, my hair's kind of doing something weird there. The lighting's not so great. So I still do that, but I still post it anyway. Like in our Mask Off community, it's like, here I am.
Yeah.
Okay, that just happened. Or, oh, I fumbled my words, or, just got done exercising and I don't care, my hair is all wacky. So that's been really like, so I guess I'm sharing it from a moving through aspect, not that it doesn't still show up by any sense of the means.
Right.
But I'm not as likely to sabotage and not follow through anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of times now, like if I'm just busy, it's just the reality of I'm just busy and I haven't gotten around to doing it. It's less. And maybe that's just having grown more in that authentic piece in me. Like you either we resonate together, or we don't. And if you don't resonate with how I show up, meaning someone I don't even know, then we're not supposed to work together. And I'm not as worried about that as I used to. So I guess rather than sharing something that's showing up right now in the moment, sharing it is possible to move through that. But and then it's just like a little light bulb. It all comes back to what's going on inside of us. Bottom line, can I do this for me, or am I doing this for another? So the habit, like you were just talking about, what do you want to do for you? That's what it all comes down to. And we make a commitment to ourselves or not, but that doesn't make it easy. I mean, I was sharing with you before we hit record. If I make a pan of brownies, watch out. Sliver, gone.
Just flying through
and
it.
I'll do that. Don't have any more. And I'll just have one more sliver. That's like,
that's a hard one.
It's a hard one. And I don't know, maybe there's a part of me that's like, I don't make a pan of brownies every day or even every week. So maybe.
Well, I was just going to ask you, because there's like, from what I know about you and what you've shared, here I'm using the words good. And I know that even using good and bad around food, which shouldn't be doing that, but you seem to not struggle with food stuff. Like you eat very healthy and you seem to have a good handle on conscious eating. So, and then it's like, what is it about just like maybe the brownies, or what is it about this? Is it about the brownies? Probably like brownies don't have more of a, what's the word I'm trying to think of? addictive pull to them. Like they'll say chocolate is it, but I don't know. Does it really have more of an addictive pull than ice cream, say, for example? But it seems like brownie is more your nemesis. So what is it, that
Right.
allows that where you can sabotage on those brownies, but not other things? That's what I think I'm trying to ask.
That's a great question because I don't really know.
know.
I mean, this is so funny for at least for maybe just the two of us or anyone who heard it. I think it was when it was during our Balancing Your Backpack Live and you were driving back.
Oh, yeah, the warm, gooey.
Warm, ooey gooey. And I was just like, oh, I need something warm, ooey gooey and chocolatey right now. I don't know. I mean, I'm not answering your question, but I don't know, but I do, like, I'm far from like good, as you put it, and we're all doing air quotes for those of you listening.
Yes.
I have my moments, and I often will completely derail and eat terribly for days at a time, and then I'll get back on and off, and for whatever reason I can tend to switch it, but I also don't. I kind of do the 80-20 rule for the most part.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm eating this junky thing. You only have one lifetime. So there's also that part for me that I don't need to eat clean all the time. Like I don't put that on myself. And so since I don't put that on myself, doesn't rule it first,
exactly.
like I can just, like I bought a thing of little mini gluten, because I have to eat gluten-free cupcakes from Trader Joe's, and I'm like, I want another one. Oh, I want another one. And I didn't like get really hard on myself, because I think it's also like the brownie thing. I'm like, well, I'm going to eat them all at some point. If I eat them all in 2 days or I eat them all in a week, what does it matter? The calories and the junk's going in my body either way.
One way or another. So
what do you choose? To justify myself?
Eat it all in 2 days. Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think at the end of the day, I don't know if we really have the answers. I think what's really awesome about this particular episode is that you and I are both sharing like how it shows up for us in a way that I think a lot of people can relate and identify with what you said about the work stuff and even the brownies. Like I can relate to that for sure. And I'm talking about the food too. I think people that are listening to this episode would just be able to identify and know that, hey, I'm not out here all by myself struggling with this. What is the answer? I don't know for sure. And I hear you saying you're not 100% sure either. There's just many reasons. It's complex. There's many layers to why we self-sabotage, and
it can be different.
And it can be different for each of us, and it can be different at different points. Right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but yeah.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, though, we are here to support you. So if you are listening and you want more support, you can always reach out to us. You can comment on this video or podcast. You can reach out to us through Facebook, they can email us. How else can they reach us if they want to get support?
Instagram, you can DM
Instagram,
us or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we're here, we're available. You can click, on Instagram, the link in the bio. There's other ways to get a hold of us and stuff too. But yeah, it's, I think ultimately the sabotaging and all the stuff we're talking about, it just falls back into play with all that we talk about. It's going within, understanding, giving yourself permission and grace to sabotage if you need to for a little bit, and then give yourself permission and grace to step back in, because it can sometimes be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But if you're tapping within and getting curious, like you talked about, that's where the movement happens and the reset.
And the tapping in and the support. I just want to say, like, that we're recording this now, but this episode will be coming out a little later. So it's hard to say whether our class will have officially launched when this is airing. Whether it has or hasn't, you can reach out to us, because we are creating a support group, and we are creating like a membership support group, an online one, and we are creating a workshop where we are going to be doing just what you said, talking about tapping in and just using a process that we have created to tap in, go inward, understand, deconstruct, and then to be able to get support from one another in our groups.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
And the right people who resonate with it, we're not worried about that, just because it's always, it's an alignment.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Yeah. So thank you everybody for listening, and we hope that you have a great day.
thanks. Bye.